My guest today is the bassist for one of the most popular instrumental progressive metal bands around. They just finished a co-headlining tour with Glass Cloud. I'd like to welcome Michell from Scale the Summit. So, hey, nice to meet you, man. Thanks for doing this. How's it going?
Yeah, it's going great, man. Just hanging out, getting some work done. Glad to do it. Thanks for the opportunity.
No problem. So, where are you now? Are you on the road, or you just finished the tour, right?
Yeah, we wrapped that tour back in end of August, maybe August 21st or so, and we've been home since then. But we're all just at home now. Chris is actually on vacation, and everyone's kind of going their own way, like we do after a tour. So we're all just relaxing after the tour.
Where is home for you? Where are you from, rather?
I'm personally from Shreveport, Louisiana. Not a lot of people know where that is. It's
right.
Northwest Louisiana, kind of close to Dallas, but the band's normally based in Houston. That's where they're all three from. So
that's cool. So when you guys split up, how long before you guys meet up again?
Well, normally, before a tour, I'll come down and rehearse maybe one time just to freshen up, and then come down a few days before we leave for tour, and we all rehearse. But yeah, I'm not, the internet makes it really easy to practice and prepare for everything. So it's, in this day and age, there's not too much necessity just to meet together all the time. So it works out. But I do commute down there for stuff like that.
When you recorded with the band that first time, did you do it in the studio with them, or send sessions online?
Well, we did a lot of writing online, and obviously we got together and jammed, because that's obviously important, as we wanted to be really prepared going into the studio. As time is money and you're paying hourly. So, but for the actual recording process, we all went to Jamie King at Basement Studios in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. So we were all there for a month or so, all together, all inclusive, and hashed out the recording that way. So
very cool. So let me go back to the tour, which was over the summer with Glass Cloud, right? And
yes.
Co-headlining tour. Was that your first kind of co-headlining thing?
Actually, we've done a few of these co-headlining things. It's actually our second one this year. The previous one we did with the band called The Ocean from Germany.
Okay.
And co-headlining, simply means obviously we just swap headlining spots every night.
Right.
So I guess the fans coming to the show aren't sure who's closing, so it's kind of like a surprise, I guess, is the mentality. But yeah, the Glass Cloud one is the second one we've done this year. Same type of thing, rotating headlining spots. And tour was great, lots of fun.
Yeah, so I heard, or read rather, that Chris had that accident with his finger. He posted something online. How's he doing, and sort of how did that affect the last couple of shows?
It was pretty scary. I mean, he was trying to fix one of our merch signs with one of my pocket knives, and it just, in a hurry, haste makes waste, obviously, in this situation. So the pocket knife just slammed shut on his finger. And we, long story short, rushed to the ER, had to get some really serious stitches and bandaging. We almost had to cancel the tour, but we feel horrible having to do something like that. So we just said, let's just drop off for a few days. The doctor actually said, you can't play for 3 days. You need to really let it rest and be still. So he said, after 3 days, I'm going to see how I feel. And ended up feeling pretty good. I think he actually used a different finger and just tried to learn a different way to play temporarily. And throughout the tour, once we got back on, he just slowly worked it back in, and it wasn't really a big deal, and we're really glad to have finished it. So it could have been a lot worse. He barely missed the bone and the tendon and all that, so it was by the skin of the teeth. That could have been career ending, so it's really fortunate it happened the way it did.
Wow, that's crazy.
It happens,
What I was wondering about is you guys kind of came a little bit earlier than some of these newer bands, Animals as Leaders, and that whole kind of instrumental genre, whatever you want to call it, and it seems to be gaining a lot of popularity. Are you seeing the benefits of that now as you guys continue to grow on the road? Our audience is getting bigger, that type of thing?
Well, the thing about instrumental music is it's obviously been around forever, but in the modern music industry, it hasn't never really been toured much. So. Yeah. I wasn't around. I've only been in the band since 2012, but I hear them speak this story a lot, that when they first started instrumental music, nobody cared about it. It was like a weird way to go in the music industry. You guys should get a vocalist and all this, and promoters, the first time the band wanted to tour, didn't give them the light of day because they were instrumental. And so once we finally started getting some momentum back then, you see a lot of these bands pop up now, and all of a sudden it's like a big pop culture type thing in the progressive metal world, progressive music
Yeah.
world or whatever. There's instrumental bands everywhere. So I'm sure it's very rewarding to the guys who've been doing it for a very long time to see that kind of resurgence and kind of like they've been paving the way. But at the same time, it's really just about Scale of Summit has always done their own thing and write the music they kind of want to write. And everyone who's joined along the way is a big bonus and positive at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, you guys talk to some of those other instrumental bands and are friendly with them, or you're really just in your own kind of bubble?
Yeah, I mean, we all know them. We haven't done too many tours with the instrumental bands, but between all of us personally, we keep in touch with them, and hope to tour them all at one point someday or something. But it's been discussed, and it's just a matter of time and the stars aligning. But yeah, it's a pretty cool community, and everyone seems really open to be in touch and supportive of each other. So it's a tight knit community, but we definitely feel a good part of it.
I think it's a cool niche you guys found, because in the 80s and 90s you sort of had to be, if it was instrumental, it had to be like Satriani or something.
Right. I mean,
right, and that was great, and people love that stuff too, and I do. But that's its one sort of sound, and then you had sort of metal got really heavy with the growl vocals, and maybe you didn't like the growl vocals, but you still liked metal. So you guys sort of fit somewhere in the middle there. Which is kind of a cool thing, and I think that's why it's maybe found its audience.
Yeah, I know that it's weird because there's this weird paradigm with instrumental music. It's that you don't have a vocalist, so you might not be as quick to be in the mainstream, or like popularity is obviously not going to be a flash in the pan thing. So you may think it could be limiting, but we've actually found that not having a vocalist allows us to surpass that label of
Right.
what genre we're in, because everyone judges a band's style based on the vocalist. It's the first thing they go to. So we don't have screaming, we don't have operatic singing, so we can kind of fit in with anyone. And just in the last year for the Migration touring cycle, I mean, just the diversity of bands we've toured with. We just did a tour with Glass Cloud and Era and Monuments and Reflections, who are all like extremely heavy, lots of harsh vocals. And then back in November, we did a tour with The Reign of Kendo, who are like a jazz rock pop band. And then we've done Intronaut and Tesseract. So it really goes to show that we can kind of hold our own with anybody, and we feel it's accessible enough that an audience for all these types of genres can really latch on to something we have, which has been cool to see.
Yeah, totally. So what's now with the band now that you guys are on a break? Have you started work on a new record? Are you in the writing process or just planning?
Well, we had a pretty solid 14 months of, like, I almost want to call it a world tour. I mean, we went to Europe, Canada, we did a Caribbean cruise, so we've been everywhere, and we're just kind of getting back into the creative process and really starting work on the next Scale the Summit album. We plan to really hit that hard this fall, and we're just kind of coasting on some of the more recent projects. Chris just released his solo album Lightbox back in July, so he's really wanting to tour that maybe in the future, so he's kind of keeping the momentum on that. And we're all constantly releasing instructional books. So we're keeping busy, but we're supplementing all of that to the grand point of the band, which is obviously our next 5th album, which we're really excited to get to work on. But we have a few one-off festivals and such. I think we're hanging up the touring for a while until we get the new album done. We plan to maybe get that all recorded maybe by the end of the year, early next year, and maybe a spring, summer release next year. But we have Progtoberfest, which is a prog festival in Chicago, and I think it's October 26th. And I think we have some plans to do something with Berklee College of Music, like a clinic/band performance, tentatively in December. So that'll be really fun to do, something different. But other than that, we're just keeping busy with our own projects. And that's the cool thing about the music industry. There's always something to do, but we're looking forward to get the creative juices flowing again.
Being sort of, you guys aren't really a newer band, but I guess relative to, the Coldplays or the whatever of the world, you guys would be, how is it for a band like you guys to navigate the new kind of music industry with the downloading and the difficulty for record sales and that kind of stuff? I mean, you guys seem to be making a living doing it and doing well. So, how do you sort of figure that out and find a way to do that?
Well, it's really just about having a really good balance between the passion and creativity for music, because that's why we're here. But you also have to run the band like a business and have a good business logical sense about how to keep afloat and keep momentum. And it kind of goes into what I was just saying. Even though we have this downtime, you have to capitalize on it with all these side projects and endeavors and instructional book releases that Chris and I both have, and instructional this and lessons and solo albums. So it's just a big conglomerate mash of all that.
Right.
And it's really just, like I said, it really goes back to just running the band like a business. But to answer your question about the music industry, the music industry is evolving and changing more rapidly than ever. And if you don't embrace the changes and roll with the punches, you're just going to be left in the dust. And it's so common to see musicians not understanding, how the business model is now, because it's obviously changed so much in the last 20 years. And instead of, gripe about what it used to be like and how it isn't now, you have to look at it how it is now and prepare to move with it for the future. So all the downloading and social media, it's just something you have to kind of learn. And what I'm starting to see now is that music is becoming less the product and more of your business card. And your live concert is now your product, and your merchandise and all these other releases and solo instructional stuff. So it's just a new business model, and I really urge any musician coming up to just really have to roll with the punches. Get on the internet. Internet is free promotion, social media. And we're all young and pretty in tune with all that, so it's been pretty easy for us to be aware of our surroundings. But yeah, it's changing fast, and you just got to be on for the ride.
Yeah, I think one other aspect too is probably that 20 years ago you might have wanted to be in a rock band because you saw a cool video and you wanted to be a rock star maybe, but now that's sort of a pipe dream maybe to get to
Yeah.
that thing. So if you go into this, you doing it because you really love it, and it's because it's all you want to do, and whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, I mean, the whole rock star, larger than life. I mean, I guess in the pop culture, I guess it's still possible because the industry can really facilitate that. But just the problem now is that there's so many bands out there that are saturating the market. So, back in the 90s, if you wanted to listen to metal, you had Metallica, and that's really all that was around, or it was really in your face. But now, if you want post-death fusion core melodic, there's a band that's that specific. So it's like
Right.
everyone is so picky, and there's so many options that it really puts everyone in a big wash. So you kind of have to branch out beyond the music and really brand yourself as players, your people, solo albums. You can always brand your name. So that type of thinking just kind of is the way to go now. You have to kind of, instead of just fight the problem, figure out a solution. But I totally agree. It's way different than it used to be, and it'll only continue to change.
Yeah. No, that's cool, man. You seem to really have a beat on it, which is great. Actually, I wanted to ask you about the instructional books and that other stuff that you do. How did you get into doing that part, and what do you take now from being in the band and everything that you put into those books as you do them now?
Well, the great thing about Scale the Summit is a large part of our fan base is musicians. So it really makes this type of stuff a big niche market. So it just started off really with tab books. People wanted to learn the music. And then once you do tab books, it kind of evolves from there. So I think basically, Chris had instructional books before I was in the band, and it's something I've come into the band and kind of done as well. But, we all teach lessons on the side when we're off tour. It's something we all do and have done for a very long time professionally. And I think as the band grows and tours more, it is to the student a little, I don't know what the word would be, unfair, but I guess if you're touring 8 to 10 months out of the year or over however period of time, it's a little hard to keep the lessons consistent with like a regimen and keeping the students' attention. So instructional books were a solution, a cheaper solution actually, to where the students can just buy the book and still learn from Chris Letchford or Mark Michell, but just at their own pace and regardless of where they're at. So the books are just kind of like the fill in that gap. And now it's done really well, and books are, it's kind of weird. I feel like books will always maintain a status quo on the marketplace because you look at a book and you might think it's archaic, but now the DVD business I feel is really falling off because you can just stream it or go on YouTube, but you can never download a book. So it's just really just a solution to all the touring we've done and still being able to teach to our students.
As a sort of a lighter note, what do you listen to? I imagine it's pretty eclectic.
Well, I really just started off. I got into metal pretty late, to be honest. I was really into like oldies and Motown and Beach Boys, and that's
Makes
good
perfect
classic
sense.
music. And
Totally.
then I eventually got to classic rock, and once I got into metal, I got into like Dream Theater, Metallica. And since then, I really just try to keep my palette broad. I really think it's limiting to just be like, oh, I only listen to metal or progressive music now. And it's honestly, it's a weird dichotomy now because being on tour all these months and playing progressive metal and constantly writing it, and I feel like I'm metaled out. So I really try to listen to like things you normally wouldn't expect, pop music and all kind of other stuff like that, just to balance it out. But I really love the Reign of Kendo. It's the one band we toured with back in November. It's kind of like jazz, rock, and pop. And I don't know, man. I haven't really been checking out a lot of new music, just revisiting some old stuff. More keeping current with the bands I've always liked. Um, Between the Buried in Me is another good one. Coheed and Cambria. Periphery's great. The Faceless, and of course things like Metallica I always listen to. So wish my answer was more interesting there, but that's kind of my palette.
Hey, your answer's your answer, you know? I
Yeah.
mean, growing up on the Beach Boys is interesting enough.
Hey man,
That's
they
good
really
stuff.
paved the way.
Very cool, man. Listen, I'll let you go. Really nice meeting you, and glad to hear you guys are doing so well, man. It's awesome that this kind of music is existing, and you guys are really making a name for yourselves here. It's exciting. And I
Yeah,
wish you
thanks.
continued success, man.
Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate you having me and great talking to you.
You too, buddy. Thank you.
Alrighty.
Thanks to Mark for the interview. We're going to close with a track off The Migration called The Olive Tree. For more information and upcoming interviews, please check theprogreport.com. Thanks.